Hey guys, I'm a Forester here with a follow-up video to one I made recently about these two guns and these two calibers. Now this is my Ruger SR1911, and of course it shoots this .45 ACP round. This is my little Seacamp LWS32, and it shoots this .32 caliber round. Now in that video, I was reviewing this article right here called Defensive Carry by this gentleman. He was a police officer named Greg Ellifritz. It's in Handgunner magazine, and in this magazine, or in this article, Greg reviews 2,000 shootings where an attacker was stopped by someone defending themselves with one of these calibers, and they range all the way from 22 to 45 ACP. But in particular, he shows that .32 caliber ACP stopped 72% with of attackers with one shot versus only 51% of attackers stopped with one shot using .45 ACP. Now, I only had 4 comments on that video, and basically I got the impression that people didn't believe the study, and they were calling BS on it. But I may not have done justice to the article, and so I wanted to go into a little more detail why the .32 possibly could stop 72% of attackers. And Greg gives 3 reasons why an attacker halts an attack. One is psychological, and you can pause and read that if you want. That's just a snippet of it. But basically, what he's saying is an attacker is trying to prey on somebody he views as weak. And it doesn't really matter what caliber they pull out, whether they pull out a large gun like this shooting a .45 or a tiny little Seacamp shooting a .32 caliber. It doesn't really make any difference that they pull off the attack when they realize someone is not as weak as they think. And I was thinking of a comparison in another type of weapon. And for instance, I have my Gentleman Jim. This is a tactical knife that I carry at times. It's designed for defense. You know, would someone be more likely to stop if I pulled out that knife versus pulling out this knife, which is my Kershaw Skyline? You know, I think that might be a similar type comparison. The Skyline is definitely not a tactical knife, but if I pulled out either one of those, it might have the same type of psychological impact that pulling out either one of these calibers would have. The second reason Greg gives is that you hit the central nervous system, that's either the brain or upper spinal cord, immediately incapacitating the attacker. Now, I would say that's probably hard to do with either caliber, so there's not really an advantage one way or the other. There may be a slightly larger advantage to the .45 if it has to go through bone or whatever. The third reason he gives basically is the attacker stops due to blood loss. And I think here probably the .45 ACP has the advantage as it pokes larger holes. But remember, the Seacamp has less recoil, and you might get off 2 or 3 shots at an attacker because there was less recoil and get those off more accurately. So for whatever reason, the data that Greg shows that as far as one shot stop percent, the .32 was significantly higher than the .45 ACP. Now the statistician in me says I would like to know how many of those 2,000 studies that Greg looked at, 2,000 shootings, how they were distributed across these different calibers, because it might be that it wasn't a significant difference if they weren't equally distributed. You know, how many people carry a .45 ACP as their concealed carry gun versus how many people carry a .32 ACP? You know, so there's a lot left to consider, but, and I don't know that I agree with the results of that study, but I did find them interesting and thought y'all would also. So there it is, a little more explanation behind the title of that previous video. And I'll put a link to that video below in case you want to check it out. Y'all take care.